Hello and welcome to the channel. I just finished playing Avowed and wanted to share my experience with the game. As someone new to the Pillars of Eternity universe, I spent over 180 hours exploring the living lands and believe while I certainly haven't seen everything the game has to offer with its deep skill trees and unlocks, I've seen just enough to know how much the game offers. So let's talk about it. As an Adirian envoy, I was tasked by the Emperor of Adir to investigate a soul infection known as the Dream Scourge, a mysterious plague that corrupts the minds and bodies of its victims, driving them to madness and violence. Our journey begins as we set out for the port of Dawnshore when tragedy strikes. Storms rage and waves batter our vessel. Once we recover, we were attacked by an unknown force. Fortunately, I survived. Washed ashore with only one other survivor, we scrambled to make sense of the situation, ultimately finding our way back to our original destination of Dawnshore. What followed was some of the most fun I've had with a fantasy RPG in quite some time. The combat system hooked me in with its surprising level of difficulty. I played on hard, but there's a harder difficulty called Path of the Damned, but I didn't give that a chance. Early game sees you experimenting with different combat styles, and it may take a while before you're able to settle on a style that'll follow you into the late game, but I decided to go with a gunslinger build, utilizing a dual pistol combo and a long-range rifle. Many other weapon combinations and armor sets were used, but ultimately I preferred to fight with guns and magic, becoming like a gunslinger mage of sorts, which is perfect for my gaming sensibilities. So if you guys want to take a look and see what this game has to offer, sit back, relax, grab some snacks, and let's immerse ourselves in the world of Aurora with Avowed. Through my journey, I met 4 companions who would eventually join me on my adventure through the living lands. Kai, an ex-soldier, Marius, the sharp bowsman, Giata, a skilled animancer, and Yatsli, an arcane scholar. Together, looking for the source of this dream scourge while doing our best to help liberate the peoples of various townships and settlements. Companions are valiant as they shout callouts during combat to aid in player awareness and are vital to the story and progression. Each companion has something to add to the entourage's depth and complexity with their own flavor of culture and technique. Each companion adds a different combat style that enhances your technique and adds flow and strategy to each battle. Want to focus on ranged attacks while someone on your team provides crowd control? Well, consider Kai or Marius with their skill set. If you would rather run directly into the middle of battle and want your team to protect you and buff you with magic, then Giata or Yatsli are good choices. The story of Avowed is very well written and tasks the player with various in-game defining choices. Couple that with fantastic voice acting featuring voices of long-beloved characters such as Garrus of the Mass Effect series ensures a moving performance. In typical Western RPG fashion, you choose dialogue options when conversing with the characters of the world, changing the flow of the story based on those permanent choices. Making brash decisions without considering the consequences may end up affecting those close to you. Pillars of Eternity lore enthusiasts and or those who appreciate rich world building will find a wealth of content to explore here. If you're willing to delve deep, you can spend days uncovering the living land's secrets through notes, poems, historical texts, and character journals. Fortunately, the game's narrative doesn't hinge on these documents. Even for impatient players like me who often skip supplementary reading, the main storyline and objectives remained clear. The personalized narrative in Avowed allows for varied gameplay approaches, evident in my wife's aversion to discussing the game with me due to my character's violent, vengeful actions compared to her arcane scholar's peaceful and forgiving solutions. Although the narrative was compelling, the notable lack of animations in the dialogue sequences led to a sense of fatigue by the game's conclusion. Despite its seemingly lighthearted art style with playful colors and vibrant flora and fauna, in contrast to the grounded realism of games like Skyrim with their earthy brown and gray palette, I was surprised by the emotional depth of this project, and I commend its art direction. Avowed is a beautiful game to look at, with lush environments that invite your eye to explore. Each of the 4 overworlds that you'll explore are rich with unique standout vistas that impress. Dawnshore, with its dense thicket of lush forests cascading into an oceanside view. Emerald Stair, with its fungal fog punctuated by ancient, spooky woods. Shatterscarp, with its dry cliffs and canyons carved by an ocean long gone. And Galawain's Tusks, with its hot streams of lava carving through the mountains, poisoning even the water supply. All 4 regions are littered with ocean flora, as the environment suggests that this terrain was once covered in ocean life, and you'll see this all throughout the game. While the art direction is solid, there are aspects to the environment that fail to assist in this art direction, like the absence of wind affecting the world around you. I would have loved to see dust and debris kicked up by the wind, birds flying, bugs buzzing around, ocean mist spraying against the rocks in the air, and other flourishes that would have lifted the visuals to a higher status. You'll enjoy well-modeled characters and settlements, each with distinct styles, complemented by excellent weapon and armor designs that can be transmogrified, ensuring players can always express their personal style without compromising character stats. On a technical level, there are several issues that, as of this review, have not been patched out yet. I'm running version 1.3.0, and I'm still having animation mismatching and stuttering during dialogue segments when playing in performance mode on the Xbox Series X, as seen in this example here. Because of this, I finished playing the game using balanced mode at 40 FPS, which looked and played well. Avowed's best features for me are its combat, progression, and deeply rewarding exploration. As a dedicated loot seeker, I appreciate how the game hides valuable items in every nook and cranny, even using treasure maps that require a sharp eye to decipher based on relative overworld locations. Recently finishing Stalker 2, another exploration-focused game, I was delighted by the brilliant addition of parkour in this fantasy RPG. Brilliant. Your character's in-game first-person body model even postures their stance to reflect how agile they are, and I love that. Traversing tight-rope ledges to reach a stash feels rewarding, and combining the platforming with clambering and forgiving ledge grabs creates a nice free-flow gameplay loop when exploring. Now, one of the caveats of exploration and combat is that enemy encounters are finite. Once an enemy is defeated, that's it. That area of the map is cleared forever, defeating any need to backtrack except to grab a piece of loot you may have missed. Of course, there will be those who don't mind trekking through to see the sights, but to each their preference. I would often use fast travel to get from point to point to avoid the aforementioned enemy cleared areas that are just poignant with their lack of life. It would have been nice to see some life return to these areas after having cleared them, but I digress. I see a lot of comparisons between Obsidian's Avowed and Bethesda's Skyrim. While both games feature first and third person combat and share a fantasy setting, that's where the comparison ends. Avowed is as different from Skyrim as the Outer Worlds is to Starfield. While playing through Avowed, I was constantly reminded of my experience playing the latest Diablo 4. From how similar the armor and weapon upgrade systems are, and how the NPCs are littered around the overworld or just more or less billboards with dialogue interactions. At around 2 hours in the game, I could clearly see that this wasn't going to be a Skyrim clone. Given I don't have much experience with the genre, it's clear upon watching just a few Avowed reviews that the gameplay here is not as deep as previous titles such as Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. It's far from perfect, but I've never refused to play or enjoy a game because it wasn't perfect. Common complaints that you'll see online is not being able to harm any of the denizens of the world, and just being able to loot anything without any consequences. Are very polarizing choices made by the developer. I'm sure a lot of this could be remedied. As far as not being able to attack NPCs, I would have rather they just disabled the ability to attack NPCs. There's plenty of games that have this feature where you walk up to a character and you try to attack them and the game simply doesn't allow you to do so. Odd that a game that gives you force feedback when you're standing next to a flame doesn't cause damage. In the end, I had fun with this title, and I plan on revisiting its world to test out different weapon combos and perhaps immerse myself further in the world of Aora. Thank you so much for making it through the video. I plan on doing more reviews on different games that I've played through. I typically like to take a completionist approach to a lot of these games, but only if it piques my interest. So if you're interested in content like this and you'd like to see what I do in the future, please like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, of course, for new content. Thank you.